Good evening, Smooth Jazz fans. How is everyone? We are here again, Sheila Ross, Smooth Jazz News and Views with Sheila Ross, and we are here for episode 3. And we want to thank you for joining us. We want to first tell you that we appreciate all your support thus far. We want you to continue to subscribe, to watch our show. If you like what you see, definitely hit that subscribe button and keep up with us, okay? Because we plan to keep going. And we just want to thank you for helping us out thus far and supporting us. So we're going to get started with episode 3 this evening. I'm going to read a little bit of our special guest artist, her bio. So bear with me here for a moment, and then we're going to get her into the picture for you so you can see who she is. All right, this artist is a flute player. All right, flute playing soul jazz phenomenon. All right, she has become one of the genre's most consistently dynamic and popular artists. Thanks to her incredible skill and creativity on her chosen instrument, as well as her charismatic presence on stage, she is at the top of her game. That was demonstrated back in October of 2022 when she became the first artist to win the competitive Best Contemporary Jazz Artist Award at the inaugural Jazz Music Awards held at the Cobb County Energy Center. Our guest is also a 2023 NAACP Image Award nominee and 4-time nominee for the Smooth Jazz Network's Best Artist Award. This distinction is very well deserved as the Atlanta based musician, songwriter, and vocalist has become one of very few women players to excel in the male dominated instrumental sphere, garnering 10 consecutive top 10 Billboard airplay singles by 2024. And she's done it as an independent artist, releasing projects on Randis Music, the label she founded with her husband, producer, and composer, Dennis Johnson. This artist is about to release her 7th album, okay? And that will come out next year in 2025. The first single, Stepping Out, is heating up the radio charts and is available on all digital download and streaming platforms, including Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, Pandora, Deezer, and more. Joining her on this high energy track is these are her band members: Rich Harrison, the artist. Let's see. And on drums, Mr. Phil Hamilton. Okay. So let me tell you a little bit about Rich Harrison, formerly with Evelyn Champagne King. Okay. And then he is her drummer. And then Mr. Phil Hamilton, formerly with Luther Vandross, Anita Baker, El Giro. He plays guitar. So this artist is, to say that she is on top of her game at this point is an understatement. So her bio actually goes on from there. She has numerous other distinctions and projects that we could probably talk about for a while, but we're going to go ahead today and we're going to spend more time with her face to face, and then she can share a lot of her successes since about 2007. And if I don't have that quite right, I'm going to let her correct that. So without further ado, I would like to bring to the studio this evening flute playing soul jazz phenomenon, Miss Ragan Whiteside.
I slid in.
Okay, hi
Hi,
Reagan.
Sheila.
Oh wow, she's been doing so much for so long. I've looked at her bio. I was like, whoa, this thing is a mile long. What am I going to do with this?
Oh,
But
gosh.
anyway, that's a blessing because I was sharing with Ragan that when I was first exposed to her, which was 2016 at Wolf Creek Amphitheater here in Atlanta, she had already been in the business for 9 years prior. So this evening, I want you to stick with us because we have a special surprise for you. We have a second guest that's going to join us as well, and I'm just so excited about both of them. So we're going to break the session up into 3 segments. Reagan's going to talk a little bit about her beginnings, and then we're going to talk about her music career and her current music and some collaborations that she has done with some other artists. And then also, we're going to finish up with radio, okay? So I want you all to just, get comfortable and enjoy the show. All right. So, Reagan, how you feeling today?
I'm feeling great. How are you feeling?
I'm always bubbly and just really just all over the place. But I'm just so thankful to be here with you this evening. And I'm so glad that you decided to come and
Thank you
be
so
our
much for
special
having
guest. Huh? You have definitely been special to me personally in my life. And when I was looking at your music, I just thought, and I'm listening to it in the car, and it just makes you so happy. Your
Oh,
music, it makes me so happy when I listen to it. And it is extremely consistent. So it's like song after song, it gives you that happy feeling. And the one word that I kept coming up with and listening to it was just the word delightful.
Oh,
Yeah, delightful.
I
It is
love that.
delightful.
Well, thank you so much. I'm glad that it touched you in that way because that's what we intend when we're making this music. We're making feel good music.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's all about making the spirit just energize and vibrate.
Flow.
And flow.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you so much. Tell us a little bit about your early beginnings in reading some of your background. I know you got started pretty early.
Yeah, I was one of those music kids, so there was always something, I was wailing out on a drum set or trying to pick out songs on the piano. And my parents, noticed that and they were like, okay, well, let's get this kid some lessons. So I started with piano lessons and still, messing around on the drums. And then I started with violin because my best friend was playing violin and I wanted to do it too. So I said, okay, and I was actually too young to do it. You had to be in the 4th grade, technically. I was in the 3rd grade and I had taught myself how to play Twinkle Little Star. And so they said, okay, all right, at least she's driven, let her play violin. So that's 3rd grade. So I see this parade that goes through the town where I grew up. I grew up in Mount Vernon, New York. And this parade, it's called the Band Day Parade. And all of the schools in the city, all of their school bands would march through the city one day a year in June to do this parade. And so I watched this and I was like, oh I need to be in this. I need to be in this so badly. But they were like, nah, you can't be in it playing violin. Not a marching band
Not
instrument.
the right instrument.
Right. So I said, I was like, okay, as God is my witness, I'm going to be in this parade. So 4th grade comes around and the band teacher, Mr. Larry Bibb, starts coming around recruiting. And I was like, okay, bet, I want to play drums. He says, well, we don't have enough drums and all the boys want to play it, so pick something else. I said, okay, I want to play trumpet. We're out of trumpets. And it's like, well, what do you have left? They're like, we have a flute and we have a clarinet. I was like, drag. All right, I'll take a flute. I didn't want to play it, but I also didn't feel like dealing with a reed. So flute it was. So I got the flute home. It took a week to get a sound out of it. All my friends were playing on it and they're like, feet, and all I hear is nothing.
Oh, okay.
So, but after about a week, I got a sound out of it and I was like, hey, I can do this. And then I started, because I already knew how to read music. So I just grabbed any book that had notes and I would just start playing. And if I didn't know the fingering, I would look it up and I just kind of kept going with it. And and I started to like it, and I started to get good at it. And my parents are like, well, got to make a choice. Is it going to be piano lessons or flute? I said flute. So it just went on from there, and I started winning competitions and started writing music for flute. And I was all about, well, originally I wanted to go into jazz, but when I started my private lessons, my teacher, Joe Piscitelli, he said, get your foundation in classical music first,
Right.
and then you can go into jazz. I was like, I don't want to play classical music. But I did, and I started to like it, and I started to get good at it.
Mm-hmm.
And so those were the competitions that I was winning, and winning scholarships. And I did this thing called AXO. It's run by the NAACP. It's the Afro Academic, Cultural, Technological, and Scientific Olympics. It's been going on forever. And basically, it's open to high school students in a variety of, I guess, areas, whether it's science, business, the arts, whatever. So I won on the national level. I actually won with a composition. It was a flute duet that I wrote. And I said, okay, I want to see if I can get into an orchestra. So took the auditions for conservatory, went into conservatory, was going hard in the paint on this classical music, got to my senior year and decided this is not for me.
Oh.
So I graduated, and with this very now so useful bachelor's of classical music performance for somebody who didn't want to play classical music anymore. And I went back home to New York, and I went to this club. It was a very small jazz club called the August Blue Light, and Bob Baldwin and Marion Meadows were playing. And I was sitting right up front, and I was mesmerized. I was just so inspired. And I said, this is what I should be doing. So I went up to Bob afterwards and said, I'm a classical musician. I want to make the transition to jazz. Do you have any advice for me? And we ended up talking for like 45 minutes. And 2 days later, I was in the studio with him recording a jingle for CD 101.9, which was the terrestrial smooth jazz station in New York at the time. And I had no idea I was going to be playing on this thing. He just says, yeah, I'm going to go record this thing. Bring your flute. And I'm like, okay, I'll bring it. But, at the time I didn't know how to solo, or improvise. That was not what classical musicians did. You stuck to that page, right? So I went in there and did my little thing. And that night changed the trajectory of my entire life. From there, Bob took me under his wing and was teaching me how to break every single rule that I had just learned over the last 4 or 5 years.
Right.
And Dennis Johnson, who owned the studio, was showing me how to make music with MIDI and how to run a session and basically making music with computers and how to get set up. And this turned into like this whole boot camp over the next, 5 years or so. And I started writing more contemporary jazz stuff. That turned into a 3-song demo. The 3-song demo turned into a 5-song EP. The 5-song EP turned into my 14-track debut album, which came out in 2007. And a few years after that, I married Dennis. Cliche, I know. But yeah. So, and the rest is history.
Wow. So Bob Baldwin kind of scooped you up, and
he did.
He's the one that just kind of created that yellow brick road for you to start going down, in a sense.
Yeah. I mean, it was, I'm not going to say that it was a beautifully paved Hollywood style yellow brick road.
It's just a metaphor.
Yes, I know. But yeah, he showed me a lot of the business end of the music industry. He even wrote a book. I think it's called "You Better Ask Somebody."
Really?
Yeah. All about just the little ins and outs do's and don'ts
Mm-hmm.
of the industry, things to look out for, things to be aware of. And of course, now this was in the early to mid, aughts. I guess are we calling it the early 2000s? Are we
Mm-hmm.
calling yeah. And so technology has changed the playing field so much since then. Back then it was, CD Baby. I was like one of the probably first 50 people
Sign up.
yeah. Uh-huh. I
That's
mean,
awesome.
like my username was like 1 or something. I don't know, but and so from there to what we have today
Mm-hmm.
with all of the streaming, and do you even press up CDs anymore? It's just been a constantly evolving process,
Right.
So even the stuff that I learned back then, some of it is applicable now, but
Mm-hmm.
not everything.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely a journey.
Yeah. Yeah. Technology, those incremental changes, it's like keep up, or, if you don't know how to do it, you need to learn.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Because it is a learning process.
Mhm.
That is just so awesome. I mean, some things I can pick up, looking at your background. Um, but Bob Baldwin, I didn't realize that he was so instrumental
He was.
in bringing you along. I love Bob Baldwin. I have been one of his biggest fans for a long time too. And I had no idea that, you know, he helped you out in that capacity.
Yes.
So that is so cool. I'm going to have to send him a little note and say, thank you for helping Ragan. Let's see, where do we go from here? I tell you what, we're going to, do you have anything else you want to share about your early beginnings? I know that.
Not unless you heard something.
No. Okay. Let me see, did I have anything in particular? I knew that you were interested in the other instruments, and then you had to gravitate to the flute.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that the parade itself went down Mount Vernon. That was an inspiration for you. So, yeah, I think that we could probably move on to your music career at this point. You want to do that? I think that it is a good idea. We have a special surprise for you this evening. And I think that what I find so fascinating about the artists is that they produce and develop the music, but they have other artists collaborating with them on the music. And I just think it's so awesome. Like, you'll hear a song, you're like, oh, so-and-so is on that album with her or him or whatever. And so that process is something that I thought maybe we could take a peek at this evening and talk a little bit about. So we have a special guest that we would like to bring on, and we won't keep her long. We're going to talk a little bit about that collaboration process and what that's like because Reagan's music is just, and I read something about I read a interview that you did with called not Remy, Femi magazine, and the way that they described your music. And I looked at that and I was like, it's not just the flute. The way that you construct your music is so much bigger than that.
There's a lot going on.
It's like huge.
Yeah.
And I believe that's where you get that success with that sound, is because it's not streamlined at all. You build it up.
It's like a wall of sound.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So anyway, we would like to bring into the studio this evening another dear friend of mine, Atlanta artist. She is a pianist, and she has collaborated with Ragan on at least probably 3 different tracks. And so we would like to bring her in. And at this time, I would like to introduce to you, studio audience, or bring on for you, Miss Pianist Carol Albert. And there
There she
she
is.
is. Hey, Carol.
Good morning.
Okay, can you hear us okay, Carol? Everything
I
okay?
can I can I can hear you great. Can you hear me?
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, happy holidays to you. Let me just say that first of all,
Yes.
because the
Same to
holidays are
you.
Oh
upon us.
gosh, we're here already.
It's hard to
I
Whew.
believe,
know. Here we are.
but
Yep.
Yes, absolutely.
you're looking great, my dear, my love, and thank you so much for joining us. Let's just talk a little bit about that collaboration process and what that's like for you, because your instrument is, couldn't we call that like a foundational instrument, the piano itself? I mean, you got to have that, right? So how does that collaboration process work when you collaborate with other artists?
Well, the piano is it encompasses the entire music spectrum in terms of like the full range of all the instruments. So
Mm.
each instrument, like the flute with Reagan, has a range, let's just say a higher range for those that don't really study music, and like the bass will have a lower range, where the piano spreads out to it hits every range of every instrument. So, in that
Wow.
respect, I'm a composer and also studied arranging when I studied music at Georgia State University and
Hmm.
got my degree also in classical music and education and studied a lot of theory. So that has really helped me when I'm composing a piece that I'm picking an instrument like flute's always one of my favorites. So many years ago, I was drawn to Reagan. It's like Reagan, when I first met her, it's like, I'm going to get you to play the flute because that's my favorite instrument. She went, great, I'm in. That's my instrument.
That's
So,
great. That's great. Uh-huh.
um, so that's when I compose, I'm thinking about instruments and leading a spot for that. And so Reagan and I have collaborated on 3 different songs with her playing the flute, and it's worked out really well.
Hmm. So does she just play her part at home and then record it? And then how does that work? How does it magically kind of come together?
Well, and as Reagan touched upon in the day of technology, when everything, especially with COVID, is basically remote these days and
Hmm.
computer oriented. And I have my home studio, as you can see in the background.
Yes.
Reagan has her studio. So I will work out the tracks and then I will send those to Reagan. And she has her own studio and she will go into her studio and record her part and just send it back, you know, via the internet.
Hmm.
And I pull it over and add it to my track. And
And then we both
that's the what.
obsess over it for
Then we
weeks.
obsess. My
I can
goodness.
imagine
Then
that.
we
Yeah.
obsess. We obsess over it, and then we may have other people involved with mixing and things like that can get. So it's tedious sometimes, but the end result is incredibly rewarding. And I love working with my friends. I love working with females because, as Reagan touched upon, it is a very male dominated
Hmm.
Hmm.
industry. And I think it's really great to work with my friends, first of all, and to work with females in the recording and in performances.
Hmm.
Girl power.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's a different energy.
That's awesome. So I just have one other question. I know this is kind of really probably sounds like, well, so you have an idea, Carol, for a piece and you begin to create the track. So when Reagan brings in her part or when she creates her part, does she just play what she wants to play? Or have you already said to her, I need something that sounds like this? Or how does that work? Does that make sense?
Well, it does make sense. I will leave a space, and Reagan's like, well, what do you want for this? And it's like, well, this is what I'm feeling. Is this what I'm seeing in this piece? And this is how I want it to feel. But I don't like to tell her what to play. I don't write
Oh.
out the parts. I mean, some people do write out parts. I like for the artist, especially someone as gifted as Reagan, to bring their specialty, their own ideas to the solos or to the piece. And I just say, okay, here's where I want you to play. This is kind of what the song I'm feeling is going to be representing, and here you go, you know, let
Wow.
go.
That's
And
awesome.
she comes up with these amazing parts.
Hmm. Wow. So you have a vision and then you kind of just share that maybe narratively say, hey, this is what I would like to achieve. And then you leave it up to her to create the piece. Is that correct?
Well, that her part, her
Hmm.
solo,
Her
and
part.
Hmm.
Her solo part.
some additions, and that's the way we work, you guys. Sorry, I got all these little extra sounds going on at my house. Piano tuner downstairs. It's the life of a musician, you know.
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
And being in a home studio, then you never know what you're going to get sometimes. But yeah, she has been very, she's very creative. So I never feel like I have to, again, write a part out. I know the range of the flute, I know her range. And this is, you know, she comes up with some great solos and incredible additions to the compositions.
Okay. All right. That is awesome. We really do appreciate your input and you sharing and taking the time to share. Do you have any questions for Carol?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to send you some cash app for saying those nice stuff. Checks
Well,
in the mail.
Well, no, I would say, you know what? I honestly, I sound like those commercials. I really can't tell a lie. I really wouldn't say anything that I didn't truly believe in my heart. So, um,
oh,
Oh, thank you,
you know.
Carol.
oh. Well,
But thank
Carol,
you for having me on.
you keep doing what you're doing, and I tell you what, I, I don't know what to say. I know we have so much talent here in Atlanta. We have so much talent here in Atlanta. We appreciate you so much. Just keep doing
Thank
what you're
you.
doing. All
Thanks for
right.
inviting me.
Oh, you
Bye.
are so welcome. Enjoy your day and happy holidays.
Okay. Yeah, and same to you.
Yeah, I'm
Thank you.
excited about the holidays. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Call
All
you
right. Bye
later.
bye. Okay.
That was awesome. We really appreciate Carol Albert, pianist Carol Albert. She is amazing.
Hmm.
And
Brilliant songwriter too.
I tell you what, we're just so blessed here in Atlanta to have all this talent. We have a plethora of talent here in Atlanta. Amazing. All right. So that's really the beginning of our section. We're talking about your music career. So let's talk about some of your albums, if that would be okay.
Sure.
So maybe you could talk about your most recent project.
Sure
Mhm.
thing. So my most recent release was called "Steppin' Out,"
Mm.
and that's the first single from my seventh album, which is coming out next year.
Mhm.
And "Steppin' Out" was one of those songs that it kind of embodied where I was in my life, which was planning to leave my corporate day job.
That's right.
Yeah.
I
And
saw that. I was like, oh no, she left her job.
I did. I did.
Okay.
I just, you know what? I got into corporate America. I was in the technology space in software engineering, graphic design, the whole thing. And I kind of fell into it
Mhm.
during the .com explosion, dating myself here, but I don't care. So I got into it so that I could have money to support my
And it was a
music
smart
pursuit.
move.
You know, well,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, it was good, but I got stuck.
Mm.
I mean, it paid for a lot of stuff because pursuing a career in music is expensive.
Mhm.
It's expensive. I mean, you know, just pressing CDs alone
Mhm.
back then, you know, it wasn't cheap. So you had to have some kind of job. And of course, when you're first starting out, nobody wants to pay you for gigs. They're like, oh, you can do this for exposure. And it's like, people die of exposure, okay? So But that's another topic.
Mm.
So I got into it and I got stuck, and I was in it for a long time. A long time. And while it was lucrative, I just felt like a plant without water and sunlight.
Mm.
And it was really, I was getting way too stressed out. It was starting to affect my health. And, and this was something, I said, okay, I'm going to have this day job until I'm a big star. And it just took a really long time, and I'm still not there yet. But it got to a point where I was like, look, you know what? It's now or never.
Mm-hmm.
And so I put together a plan, save up this amount of money over this amount of time, and then, quit and make it work.
Right.
Make it work. So stepping out was really all about me stepping away from my comfort zone in corporate America and pursuing music full time. So it was scary. It was exciting. It was stressful. It was exhilarating. It was all the things. So, but ultimately, I think it was the right decision. And, because it was like, okay, well, you were able to get this far with a job. Imagine how much further you could get when you're not dedicating 8 hours to somebody else.
Right. Exactly.
So, yeah, so that was a very long-winded story about my most recent single. But
it is beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
I just, I tell you what, when I'm driving to work, I'm listening, and Stepping Out right now is my all-time favorite.
Really?
It is.
Oh, thank
It really,
you.
really is. And then I do Spotify, and your songs just come right up one after another. And it's like, oh my God, there's another good. They're all good.
Thank you.
We're going to have to really press upon the audience, tell them how they can help you, support you, get to your music, like to, just whatever that main goal is for you, to help you, even in financially. We'll have to make sure we share with the audience what it is they can do. Because I'm not 100% sure I understand how the downloads and all that works at this point in time. That's something that I'm still learning. But I do know that, like with Spotify, you
just pull it up.
Right. But you get something out of that, right? How does that how does that actually work?
Well, there is an infographic that's been floating around, which may or may not be accurate at this point. But Spotify, I think they pay 0.0003 cents, or is it 0.007 cents per stream?
Okay.
Generally speaking, I know that there's a lot of different ways that they pay artists, because they all do it differently. Some of the streaming services will group everybody together, and then you get a percentage of whatever revenue they brought in based off of your ratio of streams to somebody else.
Okay.
Which is why, one of the reasons why Taylor Swift, pulled her music from one of the things, a couple of years back. Yeah. But not just redo it herself, but it was like, okay, so let's say Taylor Swift or Beyonce puts something out, right? In about 4.5 seconds, they're going to have 1 billion streams, right? And that's great. But they're also in that machine. They also have millions of dollars behind them, pushing them out to the masses. So, but that's only 2 people. What about all of the other, 100,000 artists that are on the platform? How do you even compete with that?
Right.
You can't. So the narrative has become, well, push your music on these streaming platforms so that people can know about you and go to your shows and buy merch and enjoy and all of this stuff. So that's what the narrative has been. over the last few years or so.
Because prior to that, it was you get a record label, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Before we had all these streaming services,
Mm-hmm.
right?
But even the labels, they're putting the stuff out on the streaming services. They have a different deal than independent artists
Mm-hmm.
because they're coming in with different, they're coming in with bulk.
Okay.
They're coming in with, let's say, for a major label, they might be coming in with 50 to 100 artists or more, as opposed to an independent artist, which is coming in with one. So you're competing again against a machine.
Right.
So it's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Isn't that something? So you're working on your current project. You have released how many singles so far on this? It's called Ragan.
Yes.
Your new
The new album is called Ragan.
It's called Ragan.
Yes.
And folks, it's not going to be out until 2025. Do you know about what month maybe?
Oh, it's going to definitely be the first half of the year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
It's coming.
So we got Stepping Out
Yeah.
and then
well, the next single is going to come out probably in February, and we're just trying to figure out which song it will be.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Very good. Well, that's exciting. So prior to that, what was your album, right? Just prior to Stepping Out?
That was called Thrill Ride.
Okay. That was your Thrill Ride. Okay.
Yeah,
Did
that
you want to
album.
talk a little bit about that one?
Yeah, Thrill Ride was fun.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of those things where it was like was that the first album after the first full album after the pandemic. So I did put out an EP in the middle of the pandemic, and then Thrill Ride was the re-emergence. Everybody coming out, everybody, sticking a toe out of their door and getting back into...
Right. That was a pretty feel-good time.
Yeah.
Because they felt better,
Right.
Yeah.
And it was so, that whole period of time was so surreal, and it was very stressful. And I think that once people were able to safely come out of the house and everything, it was just like game on. I'm doing everything. I'm not taking anything for granted anymore. I'm going to live my life. And so what did we do? We went and rented a Slingshot, which is that it's technically a motorcycle, but it looks like a sports car that fell out of a comic book. And that was what we rented for the Thrill Ride video.
Yes.
Yeah. That was fun. It was a lot of fun driving that thing. And
you have it on the cover.
Yes, it's on the cover. And yes, I really did drive it. And it was fun. It was a lot of fun. I got to wear a whole motorcycle helmet, and it was just an experience. And it was one of those things where it's like, you know what, let's just do it. Throw caution to the wind, have some fun.
Right.
Put out something that's exciting and filled with life.
Right.
And, something to make people feel good.
It's gimmicky, but it works.
Yeah. You know what? Look, I have a whole, you want to talk about gimmicks? Okay. So I have practiced, I don't know, what's the 10,000 hours? I don't know. I know at one point in time, I was practicing 8 to 10 hours a day, every single day. And I did that for years. Okay. And so I'm very proficient at my instrument. I have been on many stages. I have taken acting classes so that I'm more comfortable on stage. I've taken dance classes so I can be more comfortable with body movement. I have just really studied and honed my craft. And so here I am, and I'm standing there playing the flute, and they said, you need a gimmick. So now I got to stretch and learn how to do a split. I got to do something. I got to play on my head. I got to, I don't even know. I mean, I look at Lizzo. Lizzo is actually a legit flute player. But look at the gimmicks that she has to, and all the hoops that she has to jump through to play her flute out here.
Right.
And so it's sad and comical at the same time.
Do you think there's a stigma somewhat attached to the instrument, that it's kind of minimized? Because the flute is so you think of it as soft and gentle instrument, but you have the capacity to give it, I want to say, like a big band sound. I mean, when you listen to your music, it is like a big sound. You can hear, like Carol was saying, you can hear all the sounds.
Mm-hmm.
So let me see, what was my question? Do you think that the flute, I think you did mention that in an interview that you did with Femi magazine.
Mm-hmm.
I think you did talk a little bit about how people look at the flute as more of, or it could have been the interviewer, the
Mm-hmm.
person interviewing you, how the flute is kind of looked at as like a low, soft,
Mm-hmm.
and it is,
It can be.
but you have the ability to just take it and, take it to the next level. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and you get that big band sound.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's what I kind of hear when I listen to your music.
Yeah, I've always kind of played like a truck driver. I am definitely not delicate with
Mhm.
the instrument. I beat that thing up, and that's what I enjoy. I'm a very aggressive player.
Mhm.
And I don't know why. It's just when I get on there, I find all of the percussive attributes of the flute,
Mhm.
and I try to amplify that as much as I can.
Mhm.
And then also the passion and just all of the emotion that you can put into it. It can say so much,
Right.
and there's a lot of different colors that you can put into the sound. So why limit yourself
Mhm.
to, there's a time and a place. Sometimes you got to be a little tender with it,
Right.
but I like excitement.
Mhm.
I'm a Sag. So I got to get out there and Sag out,
There you go. Now you have played with some of the greatest artists, R&B. Can you name a few of those for us?
Oh, wow. So I played on, well, actually I sang backgrounds on Melba Moore's, one of Melba Moore's tunes. And she came to record it at our studio. That was amazing. I've played with so many people, though. I
Mhm.
mean, Marion Meadows, Kim Waters,
You have a single
Keely
with
Minucci. I mean, it's just so many.
you have one with Willie Bradley that I really
Oh, yeah.
because I
I've done
like
2
his
with
music.
him. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, wow, your versatility is wide, just so broad.
Oh, thank you.
You can just pretty much probably work with most anyone. Yeah.
And I'd like to.
Uh-huh.
I was even tossing around the thought of doing a little Jethro Tull tribute, which we'll see, just get my little rock stuff on. So we'll see. But I like it all. I like all music. So wherever I can get in, I will fit in.
Mm-hmm. Did you want to mention any of your other albums? Speak to any of your other albums in particular? Maybe one that stands out for you. You like had a really great experience with it, or just just any album.
Well, there are 2 songs, and they're actually on 2 separate albums.
Mhm.
One was Troublemaker, and the other one was Five Up Top.
Okay.
Troublemaker was the first album that I did after kids.
Okay.
I had my son, and we had the song Corey's Bop, which is
Mhm.
named after my son Corey, and he was
Oh, that's Corey. I
yes,
didn't know that was Corey.
Mhm,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay. Mhm.
he was the one. He was about 1 and roaming around the studio in his little diaper and trying to pull out every chord, and anything that was connected is like, okay, we're gonna have to do something about this.
Mhm.
But so Corey's Bop, and that was actually my first Billboard #1.
Mhm.
And then JJ Strut, which was on the Five Up Top EP,
Mhm.
is written for my daughter JJ.
that's JJ.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and she's just so, so.
We get it. We
Yeah,
get it. We
yeah,
get it.
yeah.
Yeah.
She's a trip.
Wow.
So I think those two are probably my favorite
Oh,
songs.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Because it makes that family connection
Mm-hmm.
thing come together. I'm going to look at my questions real quick to see if I have missed anything. You do an excellent job of balancing your home and family life with your artistry.
Do I though?
Yes, you do. Look at the
I don't
success
know.
that you have had.
Yeah, but I'm a crazy person now. So
Are you? Do you have? I know you have family, and they help
yes,
support.
I
Yeah.
have a banging support system. I really do, and without them, forget it. I wouldn't be able to do
It
any
takes a
of it.
village.
It really does.
Let's see. Okay. All right. Mm, 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 mm. And do you have any for your music? We know you're working on that 7th album, but other than that, do you have any long-term goals for music? I think you had responded to a question that I had asked, and you said something about finding an industry that's interested in your instrument. Would that be like on a teaching? Do you remember that? What that was?
No, I don't
Okay.
remember. But I just want my instrument to be accepted by the industry. And right now it's more of like a novelty,
Okay.
right?
Oh,
And,
okay.
I would love for it to be as prolific as, sax
Mm-hmm.
or guitar, but,
Right.
it's, I guess to some degree, it's always going to have some, I don't know, some level of being a novelty, but does it have to be such a novelty?
Mm-hmm.
People look at it and like, I've actually had people say, what is that? Is that a violin? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
dude, music education. But,
Right.
but yeah, I would love long-term plans. I want to put out enough music, enough good music
Mm-hmm.
to establish myself as one of the premier flute players,
Mhm.
like a Hubert Laws, or a Dave Valentine. I would, that's my goal.
Okay. All right. Just a couple things, and then we're going to move to radio and wrap it up for you so we can get you on for the rest of your day. Let's see. You have Richard. Let's see. Is it Richard Harrison? Rich Harrison, excuse me. You have Rich Harrison and Phil
Hamilton.
Hamilton. So they kind of stick with you when you need to. Are they like your.
For recording,
Mhm. Oh,
yeah, Rich has played on a number of albums, and as has Phil Hamilton, and they just have this great sound. Their studios, because they record remotely,
okay.
so their studios have great sounds, and they're very creative.
Mhm.
So and very professional. So when I call them and say, hey, I need you to play on this, that, or the other, I know that I don't have to tell them anything. They know exactly
What
what
to
to
do.
do
Wow.
and how to do it and how to get it back clean and on point.
Right. That's awesome. We want to shout out. Thank you, Rich Harrison and Phil Hamilton, for helping out Ragan. We appreciate you. And we want to shout out your hubby, too.
Yes.
Thank you, Dennis, for all your years of support and
Oh,
dedication.
yes.
All right, lastly, for music, tell us a little bit about voiceover artists. So, one of the things that I didn't know about you is I didn't know you were a vocalist.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I was way back in the day. I was considering going into musical theater.
Mhm.
And so I took a lot of voice lessons. I did, so I don't sing as much as I used to. I'm probably going to get back into it, but Yeah, but that using my voice has always been something has that's part of what I do.
Mhm.
So voiceover, I always had a passing interest in it, but I just never knew how to get into it. So it was like, okay, well, maybe it could be a hobby or something, but I
Mhm.
would always read books to kids. And if I read a book, you're going to get all of the character voices. You're going to, I can never read a book straight.
Right.
So, um, so I said, you know what, one day I was just like, you know what, I think I want to try to get into the industry. It's something that I enjoy. It's something that, I think I could be good at. And so about a year ago, I found, I was doing research and I found SOVIS, the Society of Voice Arts and Sciences, which is
Oh.
pretty much like the Grammys for,
Oh, wow.
for voiceover. So, and they have a convention, like an expo every year called
Mhm.
That's Voiceover. And so I was like, okay, well, you know what? Let me go out here. And so just so I can learn about it, fully, immerse myself in the community, in that industry, and, see if I have what it takes.
Mhm.
So I was really going out there on basically a fact finding mission and just to learn. But they also had a lot of opportunities to audition for things.
Mhm.
And so I auditioned and I actually ended up winning this one of the auditions, and it was called the CBS Audition Spotlight.
Mhm.
And it was like 1,800 people sent in their auditions, and they narrowed it down to 40. And I was in the top 40. I was like,
No
hey.
way. Oh
Then
my
then they
God.
narrowed it down to 6. And I was just like, okay, whatever. They called my name. You could have knocked me over with a feather. And so now I'm in this final 6, and I'm like, okay, all right, well, get in there and just,
Mhm.
do how you do the best that you can do. And I ended up winning. And that opened up so many doors.
That's
Um,
phenomenal. Oh my gosh.
got to, I won one of the prizes was a paid voiceover gig with CBS.
Mhm.
So there was that and a bunch of gear, mics, headphones, all kinds of stuff. And agency representation.
Mhm.
So now I have gotten into this lane where I'm auditioning for pretty big companies,
Mhm.
stuff, for commercial gigs. So I'm enjoying it immensely.
Give
And
us an example of something that.
well, I mean, it could be anything. It could
Mhm.
be, from cars to pharmaceuticals to VRBO, Verbo,
Mhm.
whatever. It runs the gamut. Video
Mhm.
games as well.
Okay.
Mhm.
Wow. That's
So
exciting. That is
yeah, it's
exciting.
fun. I dig it.
Mhm. There's some things in life we do them because they're the basics and we have to do them.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's other things we do that are actually fun
Mm-hmm.
and make our life enjoyable.
Yes,
So that's good.
absolutely.
I think you should stick with that.
Oh, well, thank you.
Okay, we're going to move into talking about radio.
Mm-hmm.
I want to congratulate you, first of all, on your expansion.
Yes.
You recently have expanded. If you live in Atlanta and you listen to smooth jazz, talking to our audience right now, you listen to 91.9
Mhm.
WCLK. And if you listen on Saturday, we have Ragan. The name of your show again
It's
is
Saturday with Ragan Whiteside.
Saturday with
Yeah.
Ragan Whiteside. Yes.
Yeah.
So I think I read where you responded to a question. You had to audition.
Yes.
Tell us what that was like.
Well, I had just finished doing a show
Mm-hmm.
here in Atlanta, a flute show.
Mm-hmm.
And the program director for WCLK, David Linton, was at the show.
Okay.
And we were talking afterwards, and he says, "How would you like to be on the radio?"
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Well, you play my stuff on the station, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much. I am on the radio, right?" He says, "No, fool. as an on-air personality, as like a DJ. And I'm like, I've never done it before, but I'll give it a shot. He says, okay, here's a script, audition. So took the script home and, read it down and sent it in. They liked it and I got the gig.
Wow.
And so I'm just like, okay, now I got to learn how to do this. So thankfully, so helpful OG DJs at WCLK, from Morris Baxter to Reva Blue and Jamal Ahmed, and they all helped me. They all helped me. Okay, you want to do this, but you don't want to do that. Make sure it flows this way, bring in the music that way. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was good. And I'm so grateful to them because, when I first started, you can talk, but there's a whole lot of other stuff that you have to do as well, and learning how to show prep and learning how to get out before the next thing is supposed to come in. And, so it was a lot of that. So I've been doing it now for 4 years.
Wow. It's been 4 years.
So it's, now I'm a lot more comfortable. It took a while though, but in that, and that also kind of steered me into the whole voiceover industry, because I was also reading commercials.
Right.
I'm sorry, they're called underwriting spots because it is public radio.
Okay.
So they're not technically commercials, but they are underwriting spots. And so I was reading a bunch of underwriting spots every single week for 3 or 4 years before I even got into the official voiceover.
Okay.
I was practicing without knowing that I was practicing.
That's great.
Yeah.
So, wow. See how your life just weaved. You did say twists and turns.
Oh, yes. It just goes. And, you got to go with the flow because you never know what's around the next corner.
Yeah. Isn't that something? So what about the expansion? Because you have more.
Yes.
How do you manage all that? So tell our studio audience the other stations that you're affiliated with now.
Yes. So I have a syndicated show called The Get Down with Ragan Whiteside. And this is a show that I curate and put together myself. And along with Dennis. Dennis is a huge help, let me tell you. And believe it or not, my mom.
You're kidding.
Yeah, because, my parents are huge smooth jazz fans, and, they're like, hey, we like this song, and they have great taste in music. So it's like, so she'll send me songs, she'll text me a couple of songs and everything.
That's so cool.
Dennis will send me songs because he was a big hip hop DJ.
Okay.
And so he knows all of the jazz songs that were sampled in hip hop tunes. So I'll play a lot of those original songs where you can actually hear where they got that sample from, So a lot of the stuff that I play has got some bump to it, for sure. So it's called The Get Down with Ragan Whiteside, and it's on WN in North Carolina. It's on Smooth Jazz Florida, The Wave in Daytona, CD 101 Smooth Jazz CD 101.9.com in the Northeast, and we just added a new station in Las Vegas.
Wow. So
it's growing slowly but surely. It's getting bigger. So that's a 2-hour show, weekly show. And then I have the 4-hour show on WCLK. So I'm doing a lot of radio right now.
You are. Yes. Do you think you're kind of teetered a little bit more in that direction versus?
No, I don't know. Right now, everything is just kind of one big blob right now. And
because opportunities will come.
Exactly. Yeah. There is a lot of crossover, and the more people hear my name, then they're like, oh, she plays flute too? Well, let me go hear her, check out her music or whatever. So, it all helps each other. The radio helps the voiceover.
Because that was one of the questions I originally asked you. How do they pair up, or, do they help one another?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Definitely.
Okay.
It's a lot of twists and turns, and I'm just kind of I'm just here for the ride.
So how can our studio audience, how can they support you with radio specifically? Do they listen to your show? What
Yeah.
can they do to help support you with that?
With radio, just tune in.
So
Yeah.
what they're doing is they're tuning in, they're
Mhm.
listening to you and the music. So isn't that really the crux of it?
Yeah.
The music.
And share.
Mm-hmm.
You know, tell everybody you know. To share, the stations,
Okay.
share the show,
Mm-hmm.
Tell people, hey, I heard this really, cool thing on the Get Down with Ragan, and the same thing with flute stuff.
Mm-hmm.
When you are at one of these festivals and they're asking you, well, who do you want to see next year? Drop my name in the hat, please. Thank you.
You're at Seabreeze.
Yes, I'll be at Seabreeze.
I saw that. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
Seabreeze is something else. Ooh-wee.
Yeah, that's a big one. That's a big one.
That's
yeah.
the big one, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
If you could get down there,
Yeah,
that's
it's
the
fun.
big kahuna.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did have one question. Your music, going back, the word fusion.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us, what does that really mean?
It means that you have multiple genres, elements from multiple genres in one song.
Okay. Oh, in one song.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you would have a little bit of jazz, a little bit of R&B, maybe a little bit of neo soul, maybe a little bit of hip hop, all fused together into one song.
Oh, wow. And you do a little bit of that, right?
Oh yeah, I do a lot of bit of that.
Oh, I didn't know that. Studio audience, I just learned that. Okay, that's great. All right, I'm just going to do a quick little check here and make sure that we covered everything we need to. And I'm going to let you share with the studio audience how they can reach you. Let's see. I think we got it.
Okay,
So,
you
yeah.
can reach it. You can find me on social media at Ragan Whiteside, on Facebook at Ragan Whiteside Music, Instagram. What's that other thing? TikTok. I'm really trying. I'm so trying. But yes, I am on TikTok. Not as often as I should be, but I'm on there. And of course, my website, RaganWhiteside.com.
Okay. Very good. Well, studio audience, we want you to support Ragan, and we know that you will. She is so worthy of your support. And I'm just thankful that I've known her for the period of time that I have. And I'm going to continue to stay in touch with her. And we hope that you will connect with her as well. You can go to her website, and because I've already left you a note on there.
Oh.
It was kind of detailed. So
Okay.
I was like, I don't want to type too much. But anyway, yeah, connect with her. And most definitely for our show, Smooth Jazz News and Views, if you like what you see and like what you hear, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for us, okay? And we appreciate you. And we want all of you to have a happy, joyful, and safe holidays, okay? Because we got Thanksgiving coming next week, and then we got Christmas, and I'm excited.
Mm-hmm.
That means I'm going to be off. So I get to be off from work, and then that's why I get excited about the holiday. Well, one reason I do.
Well, that's cool because I have a gig next weekend.
Do you?
Thanksgiving weekend. So, yeah, I'm actually playing with Lamech in Kentucky, in Lexington, Kentucky.
Oh, I saw that on your
November
tour
30th.
schedule.
Yeah.
And you just left Vegas.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yep, you sure did. All righty then. I think it's a wrap for us this evening, and we really do appreciate you, Ragan. Keep up the good work.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me, and thank
Okay.
you for everything that you're doing for independent artists.
Welcome. I'm just going to say you're welcome. Okay. All right.